A number of years ago, actually back in 2020, that great year that we had, I completely stopped using EWG hooks. And what I mean by EWG hooks, hopefully you can see this one that I'm holding right here, is extra wide gap hooks. This is an extremely popular hook in the bass fishing market. It's one that a lot of bass fishermen know. And I've completely stopped using these EWG hooks altogether. And in this video, I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about what I use in replace of the EWG. Now, real quick before I get into the video, guys, I do want to let you know that right now, up until January 30th at Omnia Fishing, you can get not only hooks, but all of your terminal tackle for 25% off. So weights, hooks, bobber stoppers, all of your terminal tackle you can get for 25% off. You just need to use the coupon code terminal25 at checkout and it will automatically apply. So that's up until January 30th. Take advantage while you can. I will leave a link down below in the description. All right, let's talk about EWG hooks, because this is going to be a little bit controversial, I guess you can say. And let me first start out by saying, I'm not saying that EWG hooks don't work, right? I have actually used EWGs a lot over my life. I've caught probably thousands of bass with an EWG, but I have stopped using them, and it's for a reason that I'm going to talk about here in just a second. And when I first started bass fishing, one of my absolute favorite, actually my two favorite lures that I fished, both required the use of an EWG. One was a Cinco, in which I Texas rigged it. The other one was a horny toad style bait, which I also used that EWG. Now, when I was growing up, I didn't really know any better, but now looking back, it all kind of makes sense now, because I would be fishing, and I would fish, when I was 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, and I'd be fishing all day just in ponds around me. And every now and then I would hook into a fish and it would pop off fairly quick. And I just kind of thought, that's just fishing, right? That just happens. And yes, to some degree, it definitely happens. But what I've noticed with an EWG is it happens actually a lot more. And as a matter of fact, fast forward a number of years, like I talked about till 2020, I was still kind of going back and forth between a number of different hook styles that I had used. And I fished a Bassmaster Open event on Lake Toho down in Florida. And during that particular tournament, I was using an EWG, I was using a big Texas rigged worm, and I fished pretty much that one worm exclusively for 5 days straight. I got on a good Texas rig worm bite. I thought I could do really well, and I just fished that bait. And it was during this particular event where I really could see kind of the percentages of using an EWG versus more of kind of like a traditional offset hook, like this one that I'm holding right here, or even a straight shank. I could start to see the percentages on why I needed to stop using an EWG. Now, unfortunately, I didn't see them until the tournament time. And during the 2 days of the tournament, I was still using an EWG, particularly on the first day. And I hooked into 3 fish on that first day that came off the hook within a few seconds of me setting the hook into that fish. And I also boated one fish that when I swung it into the boat, it fell off. And the very next day, the first fish that I caught on an EWG, I put it in the boat, and I'm telling you, it was barely hooked with that EWG. And that's when I just, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I switched over from then on to the offset worm hook. And the thing about the EWG, and like I said, guys, I'm sure you can catch a lot of fish, but it's all percentage thing, right? Is that if you look at the way that it's designed, this hook point is pretty much parallel on most EWGs with the eye of this hook. And so there is just room for a fish to not get hooked when you set the hook because of its design. Now, because there's such a big gap in between kind of where the hook, the plastic keeper is, and here you do hook a lot of fish. But over the years, I have just seen that this same problem occurs with this EWG style hook. When I lose a fish, most of the time it happens really quick. Like I'll set the hook, I'll have the fish hooked for a second, and then he pops off. And when I get that bait back to me, it's always balled up plastic on that hook point, where basically what had happened is that hook went more so into the plastic than it did into the fish, and therefore I do not get a good hook set into that fish. And so, like I said, guys, you have probably used an EWG and you've probably had some success with it, just like I have. But I truly believe that your offset worm hook, like this one, or a straight shank hook, like this one, will hook and hold fish a lot better. And these are the two hooks that I use. Whenever I'm worm fishing primarily, I'm gonna use this style hook. Whenever I'm kind of fishing more like creature style baits, I like the flipping hook, like the straight shank. Now, there is one EWG hook that I still fish, and it's the only one that I've bought over the last several years, and it's made by Gamakatsu, and it's called a hybrid EWG. Now, I actually don't have any with me right now, but I will put a little image of one right here. If you look at this particular EWG hook, you can see where that hook point is a lot further above the eye of the hook than pretty much any other EWG on the market. So it's kind of like a mix between your offset worm hook and a regular EWG, hence the name hybrid. This is the only EWG hook that I will use anymore. I still don't use it a whole lot because I still believe that these other hooks will hook and hold fish better, but this is the only one that I'll use. So I know that some of you guys may have questions. I know that some of you guys may say that you don't believe me, and that's fine. You know, like I said, for the most part, this is a small percentage thing. And if you fish a lot of tournaments like I do, I truly believe that if you can get away from the EWGs, except for maybe that Gamakatsu one, you will hook up and land and catch more fish and even make more money. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow.